Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here on the DeFalco Files with the owner and creator of FSW, the Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas, Joe DeFalco. Well, Joe, I guess this is the down week after this is the week you took off. You got to rest. You got to shave, go out for a nice dinner, right?
I did shave, but didn't go out for a nice dinner. I ended up, ordering in. But we cooked a lot. Wife's on vacation, so. But you know what? I figured, I'm not going to take everything away from the Super Bowl coming up or the big game, as it's called. And run an FSW show. So we
Yeah.
decided to, take the week off. We got the Valentine's Day massacre happening next week on the 13th. We got some matches set. We're excited about, and initially that was going to be the week for No Escape. So now we have a little more time to build up some of the storylines.
Right. Which let's quickly talk a little bit about Future Shock and storylines going forward. Uh, what's going on with Sky High?
Well, Sky High, they've been, people could say, hey, they've been together for 8 years. No, they've been together for like 28 years. So, you know, and they've had their ups, they've had their downs, but they've done what they had hoped to do. They've become tag team champions all over, the Southwest. And, you know, obviously if AEW comes calling again, they're going to show up for that. But right now they feel that it's time because there's only so much you can do, and the fire can only burn so much after
Right.
you've accomplished things. Usually, the hardest thing to do is if you look in boxing, if you look in people who sign contracts, once you get that big contract, all of a sudden, maybe the hustle isn't there.
Right.
You get to a certain point, and there's a lot of hungry young teams in FSW and all over, and you've seen that Sky High maybe lose to teams that wow, they got beat by the Asylum 2 times in a row. You
Right.
could blame whatever you want, but these guys are hungry. Marcus Anderson, done stuff years ago, and basically you would see him around the school here and there, but now he's taking it serious again, and now he sees something that he wants to reach for. And then you
Right.
got, besides Phil, you got the Jester, who's a young kid who, you joke about because, the Jester, came to FSW, and he's still a little chubby young kid. And, you're thinking, hey, here's a good shot maybe to bring in a referee. And we made him a referee, and he became a pretty good referee.
Right.
And he's always there to help, and he's always around. And then all of a sudden you hear the Codys and the Remys, and they're like, hey, man, don't be sleeping on Dustin. He's looking pretty good. And I'm like, that dude? And it's like, you know, you can't judge the book by the cover. I always talk
Right.
about that with Spider and having Asperger's, and oh, he's never going to make it. And all of a sudden I see this big jack bodybuilder guy. Oh, that's my next champ. He trained at Rikishi's. He comes to Vegas. And 3 weeks later, the guy was done because he didn't want to put in the work or wasn't a hard worker, and you can't overlook, as I always say, passion and heart is what drives this business. So there's going to be people that you can't believe that have progressed. Yeah,
Right.
Kevin Cross could walk in and you're like, oh shit. But I've seen 20 Kevin Crosses walk in, and 19 of them have failed miserably.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, and that's why it's like, I never doubt that somebody can do something until we see that they can't do it. Oh, you're
Right.
going to let him train? Yeah, I'm going to let anybody who's physically as capable as they believe because, people have had, issues.
Yeah.
We've seen a guy in the ring who made it to WWE with one leg.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So we're going to say, oh, he can't wrestle. There's a guy who worked for Ben over at the midget show downtown. He has no legs.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
So always give somebody an opportunity. And then when the discussion needs to be had, and again, usually I've seen, the most able-bodied people fail. So it's no shame in not being able to do it, but at
Right.
least you gave yourself the opportunity to try it. And, maybe it wasn't for you. Spider decided, hey, you know what? Maybe wrestling, I did okay. And now he's on the production side. And, he's become a valuable part of our production crew.
Yeah, of course. And you don't know where the future is going to lead you. At the same time, his tag partner is still wrestling for you, nearly a decade later.
Yeah, I just saw it was his 30th birthday. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, he was just this little teenage punk kid when I met him. You know what I mean? Now
Right.
he's just an adult punk kid, punk guy.
Absolutely. Anything else stick out to you at Future Shock?
Jaden Cole and Ricky Tenacious, and Ricky is definitely a valuable cog in there. He's always great working with younger guys, and despite his win-loss record,
Yep.
similar to Brandon G, man, it's like here's a guy who he's happy to be there, and he puts in the work, and in most cases, until recently, because you know what, on Future Shock, he he he's one of the MVPs of that show. A guy who's got a little more experience than a lot of others, usually put in a position to make the other guy look good. And,
Yep.
so whether now I can count on them, it's like, hey, Ricky was like, hey, love to wrestle Jaden Cole. It's like, you know what? Done. Because that's what Future Shock's about. Watson hit me up. It was a little late. I'm like, dude, I got a 5-man scramble that became a 4-way, but it was like, to make it a 6-way, I'm gonna pass on that one because he's always trying to get extra work in when he can. He's involved in major storylines. And I always say he's what Sharp was a few years back, to where Greg
Right.
would always be the guy that I would give the Jaden Coles of the world, the Colin Muldoons. Sugar Brown was back, and he got that opportunity to be the vet who's been, working hard Fridays with Remy, training the young crew. And he's got, some kids he's working with. So with the excitement that we have going on at the HyperX Arena, and
Right.
starting in March, probably, going to be doing shows every month there. Future Shock might be just the only show going on at the arena for a little while,
Right.
unless we run into some difficulty and issues. But guys are standing out, and Future Shock's really becoming our NXT. Davion and Rainey had their third match, and it's going to trickle over a little bit because with the Valentine's Day coming up, the love of Davion and Dana Lynn took a hit when seemingly, and I believe, Davion went to lay out Adrian Rain and ended up smashing his girlfriend. So,
Yeah. Right. Which is, always probably not a great thing right before, Valentine's Day and all the romance.
usually it's not something I'm looking to, but Davion requested a few minutes uh, to uh, to speak. So he's going to be speaking at some Valentine's Day Massacre. I guess Dana Lynn might not be taking those calls. I don't know. Young Love, isn't it wonderful?
Oh, there you go. You get another tag team name there.
There you have it. You have Young Money versus Young Love.
Right. It's actually a good name for a mixed tag. Young Love. Love it. All right. So you said a little bit about it. Valentine's Day Massacre is coming up on Friday, the 13th at 7 p.m. That's next week, Friday, a week from today. The big announcement was this one. Sanlu versus Jordan Oasis. No Limits Championship is at stake.
Yeah, and we didn't mention that besides being the day before Valentine, it is Friday the 13th.
That's true.
So you never know what's going to happen. Bryce Saturn, him and Jaden Cole. Jaden Cole, he's had a couple of big matches with top FSW guys, but that was, when he was 1 and 2 matches in. Now he's gotten a little more experience. Now he's gotten on a roll. He wrestled and won a match at the HyperX Arena for New Year's resolution. Both of these men were in the scramble match. And this is a big match for both. If Jaden Cole beats a Bryce Saturn, wow, that puts him in line. And if Bryce Saturn wins, that solidifies his role as a guy that, can wrestle for the No Limits, the heavyweight, and the Nevada State Championship.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting to see what comes of that. And this is an interesting thing here, too, with the faction and Pretty City Express kind of having some unresolved business for a 6-way here. This should be fairly interesting. So, I mean, what is the resolve? Are we looking at something? Because, I mean, obviously Ice was pinned, but Ice doesn't seem to be in this match. So what is the retribution that the faction is looking for when the guy who got pinned isn't even in the match?
To be honest with you, I'm not too sure. It seems like, the faction has some friction still. And I'm going to assume that Fresco and Watson were the ones who said, we don't want Braxton or Ice as our partner in this match. We want to prove to you that Demir is worthy. Inadvertently, Demir cost him the match. But if you look at the tape, it really wasn't Demir's fault. He was trying to help, but they used those numbers against him. And, now that I see Damon Ace, well, he's a mainstay at Phoenix Championship Wrestling, PCW, and I assume that's where the relationship with Class and Reno has blossomed. And, Young Money, initially is always seen as the underlings, lackeys, as you may call it, to Class and Reno, especially Jaden Monroe. And RJ was kind of the guy, and he they're both young. They're Young Money. So, but they've been very impressive. And it seems like that Arizona connection is in full force. And for whatever reason, they have their sights set on the faction. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Braxton and Ice Williams lurking somewhere that day. So, but from what I understand, Young Money will also be on hand. We're putting together the show. The FSW Women's Champ who missed the New Year's resolution show, Brittany Brooks, she'll be on hand. We're trying to look for some fresh matchups. So we're looking, maybe outside the normal FSW crew. Black Swan, she's gotten back in the ring. She's training, but she's not ready yet. Sure. And, you got Fallon and you got Taylor York and Layla's hurt and Gypsy's still out. And, we saw a big blow-off match with Maz and Brittany. So we're looking for some, fresh competition for Brittany Brooks. We've already announced that the mariachis and the citos will be inside the steel cage at March 8th. No escape, but the mariachis will be on hand.
Yeah.
And they will be wrestling. So the question becomes, who are they wrestling on February 13th?
Yeah.
So we got a couple of matches that we are unsure of. We're still putting the card together. We're only a week away. So hopefully by this weekend, while I'm busy before the Super Bowl, because I'll be watching that, of course, that, we're going to finalize the card.
Yeah. Speaking of, you said Jordan Oasis taking on Sanlu. Brittany Brooks will be on hand. And there we go. AEW Dynamite had a mixed tag with Jordan and Brittany as a team. Also, Maserati was backstage at AEW, but wasn't used, unfortunately. Brittany got 2 matches on that night. How
Kenny
is it?
has just. We thought we had Kenny's last match in Vegas for a while, but I didn't see who he wrestled. I saw the guy had a mask, but I don't know who it was.
It might have been Hometown Hero, I think it was. Which
he's a TNA guy.
Oh, whatever. The same thing.
Maybe it was a different Hometown Hero.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see AEW, using talent when they're in town, and good opportunity for these guys.
Yeah, I thought the mariachis were going to be on hand, but I'm not sure. I know they were supposed to be around for the TNA stuff that was happening either in Arizona or California.
Yeah. Yeah. Just again, big time opportunities coming up. And again, no escape. So far, what is it shaping up? Obviously, it looks like Duke and G Sharp and the Suavecitos and Mariachis. Anything else taking shape right now?
As of now, no. Those are the 2 matches. They're going to be the 2 top matches on the show, both inside the steel cage. We're talking numerous people. I know MK was talking about maybe Sam Adonis returning. Always a valuable guy. And Sam had also reached out to me, looking for a new home on the indies, with WWE and AAA. I don't think Sam's been used very much, since that's happened, because they're using a lot more signed WWE talent.
Yeah.
You would think Sam might have the in with his brother doing the commentary for some of the AAA shows, but, so far that hasn't manifested. So, Sam's got his stuff going on in Pittsburgh, but he lives in Houston. So it's a lot easier to get him out here now. And, we've had Sam at least a half a dozen times, FSW, and he's definitely a great talent to have. So, and it would be a great addition for the MK Army to have him on a more permanent basis. So, we got a lot going on. We got everything set for, well, not everything set, but we got a lot of stuff set for Mania Week. We got 3 shows happening at the HyperX Arena on the Thursday. So we got 3 shows the 15th at FSW. Delgado Promotions, they use some CMLO guys, and they're going to be doing an earlier event on the Thursday. We're going to be doing the ID show at either 7 or 8 o'clock. And our new home Title Match Network, they have their own company, and they'll have a big women's show featuring, some of the best women wrestlers on the planet with, at 10 or 11 o'clock. We're talking with Cross, trying to get a Mecca on the Friday, maybe a Natural Born Killers, Japanese women's wrestling that I got at Spark Joshi over at the Silverton last year, negotiating to try to get a Sunday noon show at the HyperX.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. Plus, Manny Lemons, Texas Wrestling Cartel, they're coming back to FSW. This year we got Relentless Pro and a company called Soar Wrestling, SOAR, like Soar.
Yeah.
Not that they're sore from wrestling, SORE. You know. So, we got the Gabe Sapolsky seminar. Later today, I'll be talking with WWE superstar Bailey, who got a message, not to name drop that Rey Mysterio messaged me yesterday or Zoe Stark, but they were inquiring because Bailey ran an event last year, seminar type thing, that she's looking to do Mania week. And I guess we're trying to see if we got time frames that can match up for them doing that at FSW. Because Thursday we had the 8 p.m. time slot. So we're moving out of that because we're doing the ID show at the HyperX. So to accommodate, we might move that 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock show to maybe, 4 o'clock and 7:30. And then she'll have all day to do what she needs to do. So I'll find out later today. She's supposed to hit me up and see if we can work something out, and again, whether it's financial or, hey, maybe we get a Bailey appearance to come by, to work something that, helps out both parties.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when her contract's up, and she starts collecting belts like Sasha did, you can have her become the FSW Women's Champion. Maybe that could be in the cards.
Well, she would probably have to beat the person that would be the champion, but she's like Shotzi. Whether she still lives in the NorCal area, not a far ride, but I can't believe Bailey's paycheck will be budget friendly,
right?
But again, we've learned, things can happen by working together and bartering, and I can do for you and you can do for me, and we see what happens. I'm always open to hear that.
Yeah. Also, looks like Chief is spending your money here. He wants Danny Limelight versus Sam Adonis match.
Yeah, it'll be the who do we root for because we hate both of these guys match.
Right.
But Danny's definitely on the radar for March 29th at the HyperX Arena. Hammerstone, Graves, we're looking to start piecing everything together. What are we doing for Mania week? Are we doing a Mecca? Well, you can't have a Mecca without a Hammerstone or a Limelight. So,
yeah,
and a Cross, of course.
Right. Exactly. And the one show that you didn't mention is the ID showcase.
Yeah, that's the Thursday, 7 or 8 o'clock.
7 or 8 o'clock.
So we'll talk with Gabe soon, start putting it together. Hopefully, like last year, we had Brittany Maz and Bodie got to work the show that weren't ID'd. It would be cool for Bodie to be the guy to get the match against the ID champion.
Sure.
We will have the hometown advantage. If somebody can hold Gabe down, maybe we can, jump Cappuccino Jones. And is he still there, champ? Is he the ID champ?
I think so. It's so hard to keep up with all this shit.
Because they're on Evolve. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
So, for Bodie, it's a great opportunity if he can get that match. So,
yeah. Also, maybe Bodie could put the future stars belt.
Title versus title. There you go.
Right. How easy has it been now talking with and dealing with the HyperX and did that first show make that much of a difference in terms of what now they really see that future being. Can the fans look at this as they helped progress this into something that is going to be a regular thing?
Well, the thing is, Kyle, the guy who runs the room, the huge wrestling fan, he had high hopes of what we would be able to do. We knew what we were able to do. Mark, the CEO, great dude, he had no idea what to expect FSW to do. And after all was said and done, his first thing was, we've had a lot of people come in here and more on the gaming side and everything else that they were doing that acted like they knew what they were doing, and they didn't know fucking shit. And after one show, after he saw what Mikey and Spider and our production crew did, and us, and setting up the ring, and Rocky with the with the ring crew, and me putting together the show and the talent, he was like, wow, this is amazing. So he needed to see what we can do before he could commit to anything. So you tell me. So we had a drink guarantee,
Yeah.
Food and drink. We beat it by 400%. We did a show. We said we'd have about 250 to 300. We probably had closer to 350 to 400. Everybody was happy. They loved the room. Bartenders were attentive. Everybody was able to get their food. They were able to get their drinks. And then after the meeting, I meet with Mark, the CEO, and Mikey's going there today to help work their Fortnite tournament. So not only is Mikey getting a payday outside of FSW, which aren't the biggest paydays, but this is what you yearn to do. You do stuff with us, and Kevin Cross gives you money to put together a video, even when he was in WWE.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mikey's job is to now learn their Super TriCaster. We have an older version that, we use from Joey, but this is, Mikey said, twice the size. They have 12 cameras in there. So moving forward, FSW does not have to lug their equipment and unplug their computers and the wires and have a box and bring all the shit to the HyperX. No, we're using the house equipment. Nobody else is using the house equipment. And we need our guys to come in there who wants to learn, whether it's Mohawk Mike or it's Mikey and it's Spider and it's maybe some of the younger guys like Dustin, who's like, hey, I like to lend a hand. And we're going to be in there over the next month or so learning everything. So all we need to do is show up with a laptop when it comes to production, because everything is going through there. Not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 camera setup. Not that we need 12 cameras, but we have access to that room. It's FSW's. When we want to do a show, they're behind us 100%. It's what can we do to help you? Hey, make sure you get us that 15-second commercial so we can play it throughout the casino, not throughout the HyperX. We're going to replace our 15-second HyperX commercial if we have to make sure your stuff is out there, because we want that reach, because we saw what you could bring. So it isn't like the Silverton where there's 800 or 1,000 people we could squeeze into there. Right. So we have, instead of having to go, we're here, we got to get to here, we're already here. Right. We only have to consistently add 100, 150 people. It's going to be the hottest seat in town. Front row, there's only 70.
Yeah.
We got more than 70 regulars. Chief's got to let me know. Hey, bro, you coming? If you got something going on, let me know, because I want to reserve those seats for the crew like that, for the Chief and Corinne and the Furman crew. They're always getting first row first. And the other thing about this is we control the ticket sales, because we're able to keep up with it. I got to get information from the Silverton. Dude, can I know how many tickets was sold? Oh shit, we got fire marshals coming in on the show. We got to make sure we're 6 feet apart instead of 4 feet apart. Okay,
Right.
can you stop selling the front row because we've reached our max? So now you're telling me I'm going to get in trouble for your room because you oversold us by 20? I can't tell somebody, hey, sorry, Chief, you bought front row tickets, but you have to sit in the second row because they fucked up.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
going to tell somebody who bought a ticket through the Silverton website that I have no idea who they are. Oh, by the way, you can't sit in the first row.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I got to that number and I'm like, oh shit, I don't think we can get past 70. And like I said, we're going to adjust some seating. We're going to put 2 rows on the stage area.
Right.
So we know that gives us an extra 24 second row seats because guess what? We sold out of first row and second row.
Right. Yeah.
Because we only had 140. At the Silverton, there's 200 first and second row.
Right. Right. And also one bartender and no food and,
Right. But hey, if you want to pay $4 for peanut M&Ms that you can get at Smith's for on sale for $1.19, more power to you. You know? Hey,
Yeah.
what can we do to bring more alcohol in there? Hey, what about a server? Yeah, we got 2. Oh, okay. And I'm like, hey, we don't need 3 bartenders. Let's do 2. I don't want your payroll to keep getting higher.
Right. Right.
Their bartenders are union. They ain't paying them $12 an hour.
Right.
I believe it's $30 an hour. See, we can get my wife a gig there for $30 an hour. Christ,
Uh-oh. Now we got Chief is calling exactly the seats he wants now. So
yeah, everybody really enjoyed those seats. The only difference was, you couldn't eat or drink, but we're working on seeing what we can do to make it possible. I suggest stupid stuff like, hey, a little roll of carpet, boom.
That do they have any type of like mini tables or anything like that?
Well, they have. Where are you going to put a table? In front of the seat that you're looking at?
No, I'm thinking like the mini like almost like end table little, kind of like little in-betweeners. But that's another space issue because you end up if you put stuff
because
like
the 12 and 12 makes it tight.
Yeah.
We just purchased a 16-foot ring. That might be another addition to be able to put 20 more seats in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change front row. Front row was 18, here's the ring. So the back only had room for 2 rows. We were able to put about 18 or 19 there, but we were only able to put about 13 on the sides. So now you had not 13 and 13 was 26. 18 is 44. And so 45. So, and then the 24 put us right about 69 front row.
Right.
But now the idea is, hey, for the same price, who would want to sit in the VIP suite?
Right.
So now you got another 12 to 15. So now you're looking at 70 and 15. So now you basically have the price structure for 85 front row.
Right.
Like your boy Glenn King. He was going to sit in the front row at the stage or he was going to sit in the VIP suite. I put him in the stage. He wanted to eat and drink. He sat in the VIP suite. So the price point's the same. It's a great view. It's cool. But if you want to be a sponsor, we can, we're going to throw in food and it's going to be a bigger deal. So, and then there's also the side suites that are smaller, but they also overlook the tables, which overlook the ring. So, but we learned certain things like, why is there a table right in front of the pillar, but on the far end, there's a wall, but there's a space of like 8 feet with no table and chairs. Well, wouldn't it have been a smart to move that table over here? And that would have been another tabletop of 4 to 6 that we could have sold as a tabletop, because that was the other thing. Along the side, great area, but everybody was standing.
Right.
Well, when you're a tabletop of 4 and I got 8 tabletops of 4 and there's two extra seats, that's 16 chairs you could put right there. Now you're sitting and you're overlooking the balcony. Right. And now you could be sitting and watching, and that instead of having to stand. Not everybody wants to stand.
Right.
So there's definitely little pockets, by the back area where that pillar is. There was big couches that you could chill in, but there's areas of room where that could be the standing room only spot.
Sure. Yeah.
Where you can get a great view, little corner view of the ring, and you're only 30 feet away.
Right.
Most of the time, if you're in standing room only, you're all the way in the back.
Right. And as Chief says, Joe, it's called logistics, and some people don't know how to handle it.
Of course not, but I'm always trying to maneuver and make it the most positive experience for everyone there. So, in my head, I'm always working idea. Hey, how can we do this? What can we do here?
Well, I mean, and that's the funny thing too, is that a lot of times I think that, especially if you don't know the business, if you're younger to it, if you only been around for X amount of time, have experience at other places. One of the things you don't realize is that when you have the mind for structuring and moving pieces and putting things together, what you're doing in terms of the actual booking of shows and storylines, you're essentially doing the same thing with space and trying to, business model the area and what you're doing with it. I think that a lot of times that gets lost, is that, a lot of these places just have one standard place. They've got, 200 seats or 100 seats, and that's what they run every single time they run a show. And they run a show maybe once every month. And that's it, And now you look at this and you go, man, there have been so many different venues in the last almost 20 years that you've done. There's been so much that has developed with what you can do in terms of production. If you look back and think about the swap meet versus HyperX, I mean, it's a little bit of a difference in almost 20 years, man.
Yeah, without a doubt. But you got to start somewhere. I walk into a place and it's like, I remember the conversation. The guy who ran the thing, and it was like, hey, there was this big furniture spot in the back, like nice ceilings. They had a second story with a balcony. I'm like, I think we can maybe do something here. And he was cool, and we didn't pay him very much. I think we paid him like $300.
Shit.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, this will work. Again, it was 150 degrees, but we had good people there. Derek Nykerk was a WWE guy. We had the Young Bucks. We had the Cutler brothers. We had a lot of SoCal guys. Little Cholo was booked. He no-showed. SoCal Crazy and Chimera, who became, Ricardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
They called out like 3 days before the show.
He just called out on you too?
Well, yeah, because there was a tag team called Anchors Away who ran a company in San Diego. And this was the MySpace days. And that's how I communicated with a lot of guys. And I just didn't have a spot because we were doing a show on Washington and, I don't know, Bonanza, wherever on Rancho. And we thought we would have a very, very heavy Latino influx. Right. So I went out and booked a lot of lucha guys, SoCal Crazy. And then, as I said, Another big guy, he wrestled Modest, who he did the Border Patrol gimmick with, because it was,
Yep.
it was basically ice before ice. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm not talking Ice Williams. And we expected there to be, we advertised in the Spanish newspaper.
Yeah.
Because we really thought we were going to get, a 50-50 split. Well, there wasn't. The head of security for AEW, GQ Gallo, was there. He wrestled Kenny King. And we put together Legacy's crew.
Yep.
Sugar Brown was Tommy Danger and Mike Delight and all these guys. They got to do the opener because Phil let us use his 16-foot ring with the horrible vinyl canvas. And Phil didn't charge me a dime. All he asked was to get his guys on the show.
Yeah.
And, to this day, Phil, one of the best dudes I know, Yeah. Our guys would be like, why are you working with him? Joe DeFalco, the owner of FSW, when he would do his student shows and his private shows, I would go there with my house equipment and run the sound for him and play the entrance music for him. And it's like, why are you? And it's like, okay. And Phil's people would be like, oh, make him get his own ring. Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, you know what? We both love wrestling. We're trying to make things succeed. Phil had different ideas of what he wanted to do.
Sure.
I didn't want to run a school.
Right.
And at that time, we didn't. And Phil wanted to run a school. And then after I realized, wow, when people ask me about going to a wrestling school and I'm sending him to Phil, right, I'm making him money. Like, why shouldn't I make this money? They want to come wrestle for FSW. So that's
right.
how the school became a thing.
Yeah.
And, it all started at the swap meet. And then we couldn't do a second show. We got about a week before, I had a Disco Inferno was supposed to be on it. Went to see him at Sapphires. He was working the door, told him what was going on. And we had him set. And that was the best thing that happened because then we went to the Silver Nugget and talked to them there. Yeah. And, they charged us X amount of dollars. We had to pay to be on the marquee. But we knew we had a hit. Disco worked the show. Kenny that was when we had Snuka Jr. with Superfly.
Yeah, right.
And Snuka Jr. wrestled Disco, and Superfly was in the corner. And we did a signing at the Galleria Mall with Superfly and Son. And again, we knew we had something. And then we had the Godfather at the next one. And he did, the Lava Lounge with Disco, and Disco was a mainstay. Yeah. And, the little company that could, and there was nobody running against us for years. So they were like, hey, Joe's not pushing me. I'm better than his guys. So people started their own thing.
Yeah.
Because they felt they were deserving and they were this and they were that, and it was like the conversation I had with people, we did an interview with Fox 5. They you talk for 20 minutes, they give you 40 seconds,
Right.
You're very grateful. And I love to talk. So I'll talk for an hour if you give me 5 minutes, you know what I mean? But
right.
It is what it is. But as I said, we're 17 years in. Most companies wish they last 5 years.
Yeah.
And most companies wish that the attendance they had was what we had 10 years ago. Yeah. And we're 17 years in, and we're bigger today than we've ever been before.
Right.
So obviously we're doing something right. We got somebody on the strip who says, hey, we want you here every month. And if I can come up with a good enough idea to run every single week there, they'll do it. It's just got to be a good enough idea. Whether we're doing that uncensored type show or the adult on the strip show, where I'm using, the ideas of the Splat Pack and having it as, hey, the environment, the cool thing to do. Hey, what do you want to do on the strip? Oh, wow, wrestling. But it's entertainment, and needs to be billed as entertainment. And
Man,
it's more of a variety show.
I think you just found your stable for that show, the environment. That sounds like a very menacing
Well,
faction right there.
I'm looking for, I already got the MJ, so it'd be nice to get the Prince and the Michael and the George Michael guy. But we are at the Luxor, so having the Green Man group wrestle the Splat Pack, could be a big deal.
And I think you could actually, in all honesty, something like that, if it had some kind of success to it, it's very easy to get someone like a Carrot Top End who already has a working relationship with MGM. Some of these
Well,
people.
he's at the Luxor. He's got to do is
Yeah.
take the private elevator down.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's to say, there's a Carrot Top, but, who's to say there's not a Squash Bottom? You know what I mean? Whatever.
If you're gonna call anything Squash Bottom and you already have Golden Showers, man, you got to stop this naming shit.
Not my name. I did. It's Golden Shower, by the way. It has a totally different meaning.
Yeah.
Get it out of the gutter there, Matt. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'm not the one squash bottoming here.
I'm just trying to think of a, opposite of top and a different vegetable.
You couldn't go with cucumber?
I guess, but that was. I'm thinking beet, squash, But yeah, so the ideas are endless. Like, why could on a Friday night or a Thursday night, nothing's going on at the HyperX. Hey, they're closed on Wednesdays, Tuesdays. Hey, what about a midweek show? And you can get some people in. You charge whatever, $10 to get in, whatever it is. It's basically a show. Why is it any different than Rogue or WoW and all these shows that litter house seats? Why are they littered on house seats? Because they're just trying to get people into the casino.
Right.
Carrot Top. I saw him on house seats for years. Never went. Carrot Top. It's kind of like Gallagher to me. Not impressed. Went to see him and was like, holy fuck, this motherfucker's hilarious. I was stunned how funny Carrot Top was. And it's like his little theater, maybe it seats 500, but I'm going to say more like 300.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And they're just trying to get people in there. The Colin McLeod, he opened up for Shin Lim, and I saw him. And that's like Harris. And it's all these smaller venues that they're paying these guys lots of money every single week, every single day to do something. You're not going to say that there isn't a few thousand wrestling fans that come to Vegas all the time, or people that are fans of an entertainment type variety show, because you're not going to WoW because you're seeing a juggler. You're not going to WoW because you see a dancer. You're not going to WoW because you see one of the 20 different things that they're going to perform for you. It's just a show that's entertaining. So why not have the sideshow acts, the comedians, a band, whatever it is that can bring some people in? It's a potpourri of things.
Yeah.
There you go. Got the name of the show, Potpourri. And athleticism, gymnastics, because a lot of the wrestlers come from backgrounds that they can incorporate in there. I'm working with this guy, Jake Shannon. I guess he's kind of a big deal. Never heard of him. Doing a catch wrestling, scientific wrestling type event that he's putting together. But he's got Pat Miletich, a UFC Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
They do commentary. He's got Larry Zbyszko, and he's, you know, he says Eric Bischoff went to one of their shows, and somehow Real American Freestyle Wrestling was born.
Came off of that, sure.
You know, and if you check it out, you know, on YouTube, the guy's got 220,000 followers on the YouTube channel. So he's got that niche thing. But who's to say catch rest? All these different things that you could bring to the table of events.
Right.
With the wrestling ring. We've always wanted to do comedy inside the wrestling ring.
Right.
You know, Katie Forbes hit me up. Hey, we're looking to see about using the gym. Hey, well, how about in exchange, Rob does a little comedy skit at an event. Right. You know what I mean? It's making those connections. There's so many people that live in Vegas, you know, that might be interested in doing stuff. Who knows? You know, Ricochet's a wrestler, and he would cost a lot of money. But maybe Ricochet wants to do comedy. I don't know. Maybe, you know, like The Miz in town and Morrison being around and all this stuff. It's like there's so many opportunities to do so many wonderful things. Yeah. And we have a venue that is a blank canvas that says, give me what you got. You know, working on maybe doing a podcast with Chris Bay next week as a pilot, just to test it out and see what we can do. Because, you know, it would be different. It would be more pop culture. It'd be more, you know, not talking the local wrestling of just FSW and working on, you know, kind of a busted open type format, because I'm pretty sure I can get TJP if we wanted to do a big topic about gaming. You know, we wanted to talk about nutrition and bodybuilding. Hey, Brian Cage, you know, he's showing up.
Right.
And using those guys' followers, because the main thing with the CEO is he's not looking for me to do a podcast about FSW. That's not going to reach the national audience. Right. And Joe knows I'm not going to be able to do a podcast by myself, just doing something that's going to garner them thousands and thousands of views. You know, they got Sean Porter, a former middleweight champion who's friends with Kyle. You know, the guy's got 95,000 subscribers, you know, and he has different formats to monetize his shit. But, you know, he'll get 8,000, you know, viewers just on the YouTube. Is it huge? No, but it's 8,000 people who every week go in there. He did an interview with Terrence Crawford. Guess what? That got 631,000 views.
Sure.
Because as you know, Sean Porter, okay, cool. But the idea is having somebody, you know, it's going through the Rolodex. And hey, we got, you know, that's why 3 years ago, Chris Van Fleet could have hit me up for a free ticket to a show because he's a podcaster. I'm like, who gives a fuck? Who are you? Maybe 5 years ago.
Right.
Point being, but who was he?
Right.
All these guys that now have 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
They had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, whatever we can bring to the HyperX that's successful increases the value.
Right.
They need Joe around. Hey, Joe brings us business. You know, that's why a lot of the big time wrestlers I got good relationships with, because it wasn't me trying to undercut them in their pay and, hey, Matt Hardy, can you work for this? Oh, and by the way, I'm going to get you signing it with Scott Hosey. You're going to sell a bunch of merch. I'm going to take you to dinner at Spider's dad's place. You're going to get a hotel for you and the family could come in. And now all of a sudden it was a weekend in Vegas and Matt enjoyed that.
Right.
We'll have your kid beat Disco Inferno, and then TNA can steal the idea 6 months later, you know, which they did, of course.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's always what you need to do. It's like what you try to tell your wrestlers and the students. You need to have importance. What value are you bringing to
Right.
the table? That's why it's like, I saw some people, booked on some shows. Hey, be careful. You don't need to be booked on 7 shows in Vegas this month. Mania is a different story.
Right.
But, you have your main promotion, should be us, since we're the ones training you. And you're going to work for a couple people, great, but don't work for everybody.
Yeah.
You can work for who you ever want to. I'm not going to not use you, but I'm not going to highlight you over someone of equal value who's putting the value in us.
Sure.
Had this conversation a million times. It goes both ways.
Yep.
And, step up, and people hit me up. Oh, yeah, I'd love to work the ID show. Yeah, who the fuck wouldn't, you dumb fuck? I don't even know you. Like, go pay for the seminar because, number one, there's going to be 50 to 70 people at the seminar. You think that Gabe has gotten where he has by picking all these people who never went to a seminar over the people that are in town that are there?
Right.
And it's like, sure, they needed a woman. Maz didn't go, but he's worked with Maz, and Maz has been around and worked extra work and things like that. So she may not have particularly did one thing per se, but she's in his Rolodex.
Yeah. The relationship's already built.
Yep. And same thing with Oasis, and same thing with Ice Williams, and same thing with Bodie, who got to do some extra work recently. The only reason Bodie you didn't see get extra work before was because he couldn't until he was 18.
Right.
The minute he turned, boom. Gabe's like, send in the stuff, get your blood work done, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's all relationships, right place, right time. Who do you know? Who can help you?
Right.
Show your value. I've heard people ask, oh, Jaden Cole, how'd you get on PCW? Because Joe hit up the main people there and said, I need you to get him on. Here's a guy who works hard. He's humble. He's really good. Making not a priority. He's making FSW exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if he's able to do that for me, I feel I can go out of my way. And there's good talent because you know what? Remy's helped a lot of guys get booked there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at a lot of our younger guys who kind of gotten to a different level. Dom used the Suavecitos. Dom used the Mariachis.
Yeah.
He's used Bodie. I believe
Yeah.
he's using Bodie coming up. And he's used numerous others. That's his Vegas pipeline. Go look for anybody from Vegas who's worked a Dom show.
Right.
They work for me.
Yeah.
How do you get out there? You want to get out there. The best way to succeed in this business is getting to work in as many places as you can. Not in the same city. Go to Phoenix, go to Tucson, go to SoCal, go to NorCal, go to Central Cal, go to Utah.
Yeah, and if you're serious about going to the WWE, the one thing you have to do is not only hit where you are, but find a way to get those flights to the East Coast, find a way to get the flights to the Midwest and to the South, because the biggest thing, and when you're saying, investing in yourself essentially, is if you build your social media following and there are more people who know who you are around the country, they pay attention to that stuff. And
I've said that to many people, following. I'm like, hey, you're not even following us. What's wrong with you? You're following 200 people and you got 500 followers. And you're getting bookings that you're getting flown to Shimmer and shit or whatever, or the East Coast Stardom, whatever it is, and it's follow the companies you work for.
Yep.
Follow the people you work with, because people look at what is your social media reach.
Yep.
We knew all the time. It was like, holy shit. When we had Viva Van as champ, like, holy crap, that fucking video got 35,000 views. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It gets us out there
Yeah.
indirectly.
And there's also another one who wrestled at AEW this past week. So
now she's signed.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was another one I forgot right there when I made a post this past week because I did Fox 5. And it gave you a list. And it isn't everybody who trained with us. It's like FSW heavyweight champions were FSW champions before anybody knew who they were. We had Brian Cage. We had LA Knight. We have Hammerstone. We got Cross. We got Bay. We got Nevada State, Solo Sikoa. We got women's champ, Zoe Stark. I forgot Viva Van. She was an independent wrestler. She became my champ. Thought she was really good. Had a good following. Now she is an AEW contracted wrestler.
Yep.
So add that one to the list. You know, Matt Vandergriff getting to work New Japan. Works New Japan strong on a consistent basis. You know, didn't even add Royce and Jarrell, New Japan, in Japan. Jacob Austin Young, Nevada State champion. Now he wrestles in New Japan. I think I forgot a couple.
Yeah.
Man, I lacked in putting myself over or putting FSW over.
Yeah.
There's that many people that were, before they were stars, they were future stars.
Yep. Yeah, and those future stars are going to be colliding on February 13th, which is Friday the 13th, and a Valentine's Day massacre to be had at the FSW Arena at 7 p.m. And so far, Jordan Oasis is going to try to win the No Limits Championship from Son Lu. You'll see Jaden Cole and Bryce Saturn go at it, which is probably going to be one of the better matches that we've seen in a while, man. I think that both of those guys wanted this match, and they have a lot to prove to not only, you know, the wrestling world and the fans and everything, but I think between the two of them, it's going to be something else, man. I think that's a great match. And then, of course,
I'll tell you what, both guys were in the Gabe Sapolsky seminar last year, and after that, Bryce Saturn got invited and was an extra, I believe, not at Mania, I believe at Raw or SmackDown the day before he got that. But that was Jaden Cole's first match in front of people.
Yeah.
At that event. And I even messaged Gabe about him. I'm like, hey, this guy who wrestled his very first match at your seminar, you were surprised. Don't know if you remember him, but I just want to let you know he has exceeded expectations. And I guarantee you, Jaden Cole ain't going to think twice about being in the seminar tryout this year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and again, we've already got almost a dozen people signed up, and this was, you know, with Gabe sharing it 2 days ago. You know, it will sell out. We just don't have the time to do 100 people. You know, it's going to be capped at about 60. Now, that's 60 wrestlers. So if you're a manager or you're a referee, there's never going to be 60 of those. So, you know, but if you're a wrestler, it's going to max out. So,
yeah, absolutely. So that's going on again. Valentine's Day Massacre is on the 13th. The Full Tilt, of course, is coming up Mania Week, April 15th through the 19th, including the ID Showcase on the 16th and Gabe's seminar on the 15th at 10 a.m. And, of course, No Escape. Total Meltdown from Silverton on March 8th at 5 p.m., which is a Sunday. You know, get your tickets now, and man,
and Ground Zero, March 29th at the HyperX.
At the HyperX. So
you want to talk about a loaded schedule?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's another Future Shock in there somewhere, right?
February 28th.
Yeah. So,
but you know what this does by doing monthly at the HyperX, it ups the show.
Yeah.
So now we would have the 5 or 6 Silverton events every year. That was the super card.
Right.
Now we're going to have 12 super cards, maybe more because of Mania Week and all the other stuff. So now you're looking at 12 super cards. And then you got Future Shock. So if we're running that every month and Future Shock every month, now there's those people in between.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, sure, at the anniversary show, we're going to have a battle royal that the younger guys are going to be in. Sure, we're going to have a Rumble match that you're going to be in. But how do you, pop that balloon and get yourself? Because, there's people questioning after what's come out of Future Shock, there's been some storylines. Well, does that storyline continue? There's talks of, one of the main Future Shock feuds to maybe breaking off into a match at No Escape, which gives one of the younger guys who may not, other than in a pre-show match, don't get to work a main casino show.
Yeah, storyline.
Regular match.
Yeah.
Dave Mazzani. He was, Dave has become now a regular. There's going to be something for Dave. Now, is it with the first responders in C4? Or is it, different ideas? Silverton, Escape the Cage. What could be the third cage match? I don't know. What is Brittany doing? She'll be there.
Yeah.
Or whoever the champion is. Still figuring that out. I don't know if Brittany's working in the, we might be doing that. It's funny, certain things get cursed or whatever. We've had one match for the intergender tournament that we were trying to put together, and that was Davion and Dana Lynn, who won a first round match.
Right.
But due to injury, Taylor York and Jacob East had to pull out. He separated his shoulder. He's now cleared. Layla Gray tore her ACL before their match. Before we found out Jacob East was hurt, they were supposed to wrestle them in the first round match. Then there was an issue with Zamaya and Koa, who were a team.
Right.
Which they were going to wrestle Remy Marcel and Maserati.
Right.
So we had about 5 of those matches go by the wayside. But now that we have more shows, the idea is, let's get it going again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much going on. And, man, who would have thought that 2026 would just be like a rifle just shooting shots over and over and over? It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm bandying the idea, the anniversary show, 17th anniversary, barely legal.
Well, at least we know it's illegal. So it's barely legal, but it's legal, right? It's
I don't know if
that underage thing right now, Joe, is not playing very well in many circles.
Yeah, that is true. But again, I'm taking it off the ECW paper,
right?
And you're taking it right to the gutter again.
That's what I'm here for, man. That's what I'm here for. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week, and until next week.